It's in Germany. Welcome. Who else is with us here? Leah is with us in Florida. Natalie is, good question. Where we are? Welcome, Natalie. Oh, Massachusetts. Beautiful. Okay. A transplanted New Yorker in Massachusetts. All right. Dam is in Indonesia where there's heavy rain. Simcha is in Florida, as Leah is. Right. Karen in Ohio has joined us. We have on Instagram, Yenta Telebenta. We have Akoy in Peru. We have Michael. We have topic today, Garden of Eden. Michael, welcome. And who else is with us? From Santon? I'm not sure I got that straight. Okay, beautiful. We have in Clubhouse, we have Adam with us and Celestial, Liana, Michael, Winston. And we have David in Golden River, Colorado. Sorry, not Colorado, California. Sorry. Julia in Pennsylvania. Oh, you're getting your first real snowfall today and you're excited. Oh, okay, coming from Florida. Of course you're excited. Yeah. Tim in Texas, Boker Tov. Ryan is in California. Oh, California Chabad, beautiful. All right, enjoy. Jackie is in Charlotte, North Carolina. Shalom. Rena is in Colorado. Eugenia in Calgary, a fellow Canadian. Who else is with us? Yochanan, welcome aboard. Natina is in Canada. And beautiful. Okay. We continue in the 29th letter. Yesterday we spoke about hollow pillars of light that connect the bottom, the actions that we do, and lead to the divine will. That we connect to the divine will and we're embraced by this hollow light of divinity in doing a mitzvah. So let's take this a bit further. We create, as we said, a garment through the act of the mitzvah. Actually, maybe let's put it into it. In the act of the mitzvah, there's a divine connection to God himself. In the act of the mitzvah that's done with a love and awe, that there's done with a devotion. So it creates a garment, a garment, spiritual garment, that's that light that is garment, that the soul then can have pleasure in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden. Let's take that apart and understand that further. What does that mean? In other words, the soul, after it leaves this world, after we finish 120 years here, nothing less. So, says the Alter Rebbe, this is the meaning of the statement in the sacred Zohar that says that good deeds, meaning mitzvahs, which a person does, elicits a garment of light of supernal splendor, which is the level of Kesser crown, which is crown, meaning beyond intelligence, that touches beyond divine intelligence, it touches divine will. And in the Kesser of the crown, there's two dimensions. There's the divine will and the pleasure that creates a will. As we explained previously, that the reason you want something is because you have a pleasure in the thing that you want. So pleasure is the deeper cause or the deeper expression of the individual that causes you to have a will. Well, that comes because that's the way it is in the divine order of things. That the pleasantness of God, meaning to be able to experience a pleasurable thirst of godliness, right, is a greater light of God that produces a will of God. And that will, as we explain, 613, 620, right, pillars of light, hollow pillars of light, that when we do it, we're surrounded by the light of God that gives us a connection to the top of the pillar, right, which is the Caceres, no, what's the English word? The capital, right, on top of the pillar, right, that holds up the top part. With that capital, Kesser is referring to the crown, right? And that's where Caceres means crown. That crowning part, the capital on top, that holds up and is connected to the bottom through the act of physical mitzvahs that we do that connects us to the divine will. And in that divine will, therefore, when our soul then goes to the Garden of Eden, Gan Eden, right, it will then be able to have the pleasurable thirst being quenched of the ray of light of God that comes from beyond the will of God, right? Supernal splendor, as the Zohar calls it. Now, the garment that we create through the act of the mitzvah, and that's in the metaphor. I hope you're following all the details in the metaphor over here, right? Because in the doing of the act of the mitzvah, we are surrounded by the divine light that creates a garment for us, right? A spiritual garment that when our soul goes into Gan Eden, that we'll be able to have the pleasure of the divine, experience it there, at least a glimmer of it, not the entirety of it. Here he doesn't speak about it, but the entirety of it actually comes in times Messianic era. But that's not where we are right now or what we're speaking about. So that glimmer you will have there, because in Gan Eden, there's actually two levels. There's a lower level and a higher level of Garden of Eden. The lower level is through the act of the mitzvah that a person performs, because, as we said in the metaphor, a pillar connects the ground to the roof, bottom to top. The bottom is the physicality of this world, that we engage in the physicality of this world to do of the 620 commandments of God, 613 biblical and 7 rabbinic, that gives us then, or creates for us through that, the divine light that connects us to the divine will, and that brings the garment, as you will, for the soul through the act of doing the mitzvah, that brings the soul into the lower level of Garden of Eden. But when your Torah studies we're doing now, or your prayer, or any mitzvah that you do, is done with true love and devotion of the heart, then that allows the soul to rise up to the higher level of Garden of Eden, because there is where you can have the true divine pleasure. The soul has there the true divine pleasure. Why? Because when you occupy yourself in Torah, prayer, and mitzvah for its own sake, meaning not for the feel good, but for its own sake, meaning because out of the love of God, in other words, to be bound up, to be connected with God, right? And again, has to be, though, through the practical mitzvahs. In other words, the love of God is not just a feeling in the heart, but it means that it's now expressed through practical commandments. So even when it comes to Torah study, there's a practicality of it. It's not just to hear them, but also to actually move your lips. Doesn't mean in everything you have to do that, by the way, but there has to be part of your Torah study that you're actually reading something, or if you know by heart the oral Torah, and you actually move your lips, meaning that's a form of an action, and that creates the connection. And when it comes to prayer, likewise, we need to articulate the words. It's not sufficient that we just read the words of prayer, or just kind of meditate on words of prayer, but we actually have to articulate it. Why? Because again, remember that the connection that we have to the divine in creating the garment is because a pillar connects the bottom to the top. So the bottom is a material physical world. That's what we live in. Material, that's the bottom, right? Not spirituality, but materiality. So what does that mean when you do a mitzvah materiality? Well, as most mitzvahs are done with physical things like tefillin, the candle, Shabbos candles, eating matzah, right? Breaking bread on Shabbos, making kiddush on wine. All of those things are with material things, right? So because the connection needs to be there, but that's not sufficient, that has to be done also with a love and awe, in order that the soul can come and thereafter, well, in the moment you're connected to God, period, right? There's many dimensions to this, and the dimension that we're speaking about over here is not about in the moment what you have accomplished, but what you have accomplished there for the soul experience that it will have after our time here in the Garden of Eden, in Gan Eden. So through doing it with intent, with love and all, and that will allow the soul then to go into Gan Eden, into the Garden of Eden, and to be able to absorb the pleasurable thirst that the soul was connected to in this world, but did not experience it in this world. Now, when we're studying Torah now, we're not experiencing the pleasurable thirst that the soul has, and it wants to have the divine light being absorbed and feeling that connection. Today is about doing mitzvahs. This experience will come again in Gan Eden, but only a glimmer of it. Again, I'm just parenthetically saying that the full weight of it, of what we're doing now, will be experienced in times of Mashiach. But, that's not the point here. Okay. Now, what's important is that the devotion that we have, the kavanah, the intent that we have, right, is as important as it is to speak the words of prayers, right? It's not enough. They need to be imbued with heartfelt devotion. And the reason for that is because that's the divine will, not because, that's what I want or that's what makes sense to me, is heartfelt devotion, right? The act is, not so important. It's more, where's your heart? No, the divine will has two dimensions to it. And that's what is expressed in the lower and the higher level of Gan Eden. The lower level expresses the act of the mitzvah, right? Just do the mitzvah, right? The act of putting on the tefillin, the act of lighting the Shabbos candles. But that's not sufficient to create this divine light, that it should have an eternity to it. You need also the devotion in the act, but devotion without the act, or the act without devotion, is not sufficient. Why? Because the divine will of God is He wants both things, and reflected in the two levels as a result in Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. Again, the lower level is it brings out the idea of the act of the mitzvah. So therefore, when you pray, you need to verbalize, articulate the words, and then the higher level is bringing out the superiority of devotion, of kavanah, over the act or the speech of doing the mitzvah. And this is again, as we learned, and it concludes the Alter Rebbe today, that we learned the first part of Tanya in chapter 38, that when you do an act of a mitzvah, it is likened to the body. When you do that act of a mitzvah and it is with soulfulness, with devotion, it's likened to the soul. And more, to do a mitzvah that is just body without soul is not complete. You need to do both the act, so you need the body of the mitzvah, right? Not sufficient, again, just the kavanah, the intent, the heartfelt devotion, but you need the body of the mitzvah, you need the action. And together with that, to be infused with soulfulness, that's truly the ultimate divine will, both things. And that is today's Tanya. Any questions, any comments, any thoughts? I don't see. We're going to conclude because we have a bris now, and I'm going to get some Rambam in. When we are sleeping, how did the connection to Hashem in these two dimensions? Good question. I don't know. Think about that. Good question. John, can Kavana be self-generated? It has to be self-generated. Intent is, where we're at, right? We can pray and our minds are elsewhere, right? We're not engaged. Yes, absolutely correct, John. Thanks, Ryan. Very, very sweet of you. God bless you. I think that's it. All right. Amazing stuff with amazing people, as you are. As I say, I am, what's the word? Inspired and humbled by you all. I say this often because I mean it. That you come in, day out. Amazing. Will the Rambam? Yes. We're going to have right now. Okay, folks, I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zuch and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Rambam coming up on Facebook, Chabad ZK, or on Zoom, 770-770-6085 is our Zoom address. Come on in. Have a great day.